So you just heard from Yann Lafreniere, Quebec's public security minister, on the public safety bill he has tabled. Now let's get some reaction. The Canadian Civil Liberties Association says it has a lot of problems with the bill. Anaïs McNicoll is director of the Fundamental Freedoms Program over at the CCLA, and she joins us on the line. Welcome to the program.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
So what are your top concerns with what Quebec is trying to do here?
So we're deeply concerned with some provisions within this bill that broadly restrict peaceful protests and public expression. And I just want to be clear from the start. Public safety, we agree that it's very important, but the truth is it's already extensively protected under existing legislation. So I heard Mr. Lafreniere this morning give examples of intimidation and criminal harassment. Well, those type of conducts are already prohibited. Now, if we look at the draft bill in greater detail, for example, there's this prohibition on demonstrations near the residence of an elected official. I want to be clear here. It's not a limit on protests that are violent or threatening. It's a limit on protests that are just close to the house of an elected official. So it can literally be a group of elderly people reading a poem out loud in front of the house of the premier, not on his property, but really on public streets. Mm-hmm. So we're talking about a very broad infringement on the core protections for freedom of expression and freedom of peaceful assembly. And that's just one example.
And I've had discussions with members from the government before because they've tried to legislate their way out of some issues there before. And, one of the things they say is that, especially on the municipal level, they have people that no longer want to run for office. They're having trouble, cities and towns having trouble recruiting people because they can't escape that, and I can understand that even if it's a peaceful protest, but it's right in front of your home. Is there anything there where you can say, well, that maybe they've got a leg to stand on if the benefit is allowing more people or letting people stay in office longer or want to be in office?
Well, I think what we really have to ask ourselves is, do people have a right to privacy within their homes? Of course they do. But other people have the right to express themselves on public streets. Mm-hmm. And I truly believe that these rights can be reconciled together. They're not in opposition with each other. Can a line be crossed? Yes, when a protest becomes violent or threatening or obviously trespass on private property. But limits already exist in these situations. But we're not ready to accept that any protest, no matter how peaceful, should be illegal just because it is close to the residence of an elected official. So it's really the difference also about between is this something that should be illegal versus is this a good strategy? This is not something that I encourage people to do, but we do not believe that it should be illegal.
What about the moves they're making here on targeting people who may be showing up at protests who want to create damage, coming to protests with objects like billiard balls and other heavy objects where they could possibly create damage at the protest? Seems to be giving the police more powers here. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, this provision is giving the police very broad powers. And again, it's not a limit on actual violence or threats because these limits already exist. It's a limit on possession of objects that may interfere with the physical integrity of a person. So when you read the actual provision, frankly, many objects can interfere with physical integrity. A peaceful protester could be in possession of a sign mounted on a very large stick. Is that going to fall under that prohibition? A peaceful protester could be carrying a walking stick and might not be looking like they need the walking stick. That could very well fall under this new prohibition. As mentioned by Minister Lafreniere, they also create new search powers for the police without a warrant if there are reasonable grounds to suspect that someone may be in possession of an object. So we're again talking about a very, very broad provision which from our perspective is likely to lead to abusive enforcement by the police.
The way that the government intends to go after organized crime, specifically their colors, their logos, flags, other things to identify organized crime groups, do you also think that goes too far?
So that's really interesting. I heard Minister Lafreniere talk about organized crimes. But when we read the actual provisions of what is suggested under this bill, they're suggesting to create a new list of entities with a criminal purpose. And this list would be drawn by the Minister of Public Security based on very permissive conditions. So an entity could be included if the minister has reasonable grounds to believe that one or many individuals active in Quebec and related to this entity are pursuing a criminal purpose. And pursuing a criminal purpose is defined under the bill as committing or attempting to commit criminal offenses or promoting the commission of a criminal infraction. And that's where it gets tricky. For example, blocking a bridge as part of a demonstration can lead to criminal charges. It can be criminal conduct. So an environmental activist group whose members have been arrested for blocking a bridge could very well be included under this list. We're not only talking about organized crime. And in that situation, an individual wearing a T-shirt with the logo of an environmental group could be found in violation of this new prohibition.
Is this something that you would take to court if this were to go through as is? And I know he says he's going to do consultations and talk to lots of groups, but let's say it went through almost as is or as is. Would you take this bill to court?
Well, you know what? The CCLA has a long history of fighting against government overreach, and we certainly take those infringements on freedom of expression and the right to protest very seriously. So it's definitely an option that would be on the table if the government were to adopt this bill as drafted.
Anaïs, I have to leave it there. I want to thank you for coming on today.
And thank you for having me.
That's Anaïs Bussières McNicoll, Director of the Fundamental Freedoms Program at the Canadian Civil Liberties Association.
I'm Dylan Playfair.
And I'm Tyler Smith.
We're putting loneliness in the penalty box by talking to some of our favorite athletes about the importance of friendship.
This is Bromance.
Bromance is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers, proudly Canadian-owned and operated. Charm has been part of your love stories and bromances for over 50 years. And you can find Bromance on the iHeartRadio network or wherever you get your podcasts.